Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining today's webinar. I am Twing, the Chief Marketing Officer at TGM Research, and I'm honored to be your host today for the webinar, Europe Cryptocurrency Insights 2024. At TGM, we specialize in uncovering human-centric insights that help businesses adapt to changing markets. As part of that mission, we've been closely monitoring sectors that are undergoing rapid change, and one of the most dynamic this year has been cryptocurrency. Over the next few minutes, we explore how people across Europe are paying, saving, and thinking about crypto in everyday life. This section is part of our global research initiative, diving deep into consumer attitudes towards cryptocurrency. Today, we'll be zooming into Europe, exploring key trends in payment behaviors, crypto ownership, platform trust, and more. Leading us through the findings today is Antonella, our Client Service Director at TGM, with years of experience working closely with brands across Europe. Antonella brings sharp perspective on how consumers' behaviors evolve, particularly in tech-forward sectors like fintech and digital finance. So, Antonella, over to you.
All right, so thank you to Yen. Very pleased to be here, and yeah, this is exciting topic. Today's insight come from the TGM Cryptocurrency Insight. We did 2024, a global research program spanning across 34 countries. And for this European edition, we focus on some key European markets to understand how people are paying, saving, engaging with crypto, and what's changing their financial habits. Whether you are fintech, perhaps a market research or a product developer, or just a crypto curious, today's findings will offer a valuable snapshot of what's really happening across the continent. So let's jump into the insights, starting with where Europe stands in its payment journey. Before we actually dive into the findings, here is a quick look at today's agenda and the topics that we will cover. So to start with, we will cover evolving payment preferences. So that's it, how people are paying today, how behaviors are shifting across generations and for digital tools. Secondly, we will look into crypto pulse. We will look at crypto familiarity, ownership levels, and what people are doing with their digital assets. Thirdly, we will cover storage and platforms. So that is how and where cryptos are stored, which coins, which platforms are leading the change right now. Finally, we will talk about barriers to adoption and what's holding people back from actually embracing crypto, from trust to usability. So each of these sections is designed to offer a snapshot of the changing financial behavior across Europe. Before diving into crypto, let's first understand how Europeans are paying today, because current payment behaviors often set the stage of how people approach digital assets more in general. At the top of the list, there are two familiar methods, debit cards and cash, each preferred by the 25% of respondents, and this happens across Europe. Even as digital options expand, traditional methods like cash and debit cards continue to play a central role, particularly among older users. On the other hand, younger users lean slightly more towards digital tools like mobile wallets, online transfers, but for now, the mainstream preference still rests with cards and cash. Now, let's zoom into how Europeans are storing payment details, a key indicator of their comfort with digital finance tools. About 1 in 5 Europeans, this 20%, store card details on their phones, while 13% do so on computers. Interestingly, men are slightly more likely to adopt both habits. So here we see that 22% storing on phones versus 19% of women doing so. And we also see that 16% men store on computers versus 11% of women. What stands out is that while cash remains dominant, we are seeing a steady shift toward mobile first behaviors, particularly among male users. We also see that 10% have set up a mobile wallet, but aren't actually using it yet. And this is very interesting because it suggests that curiosity is already there and there is some sort of adoption, but activation might lag behind. So this is clearly an opportunity for fintech providers and other product developers to work on this area. If we step back, we can summarize this phase in Europe payment journey as a balancing act between tradition and transition, because cash is still dominant, with 41% of Europeans saying they prefer to pay with it whenever it's possible, especially among all the adults. But change is clearly underway, as we see that 29% now feel more comfortable going without any cash at all. And this signals a rising confidence in digital tools. As mentioned in the previous slide just a second ago, younger consumers are helping to drive this shift as they are storing cards on phones, paying through apps, and even experimenting with mobile wallets or even crypto. At the same time, all the adults continue to rely more heavily on traditional methods, highlighting this generational divide in the payment adoption. This coexistence of old and new behaviors reflects a consumer landscape that is adapting, but cautiously. And that brings us to our next section, where we take a closer look at how cryptocurrency fits into this broader financial shift. Let's now turn to credit card usage. Credit card usage is rising across Europe, especially among younger adults. We see that 28% of those aged 18 to 24 and 30% of those aged 25 to 34 say they've used credit cards more in the past year, signaling a growing openness to credit card-based tools in early adulthood. This shift is likely driven by digital native users who value rewards, flexibility, and opportunity to build credit. Features that are increasingly integrated into modern financial ecosystems. At the same time, the reduction in cash usage remains steady across all age groups, suggesting a broader evolution in payment behavior, where trust in digital tools is gradually replacing the need for physical currency. It's a clear example of how modern convenience and traditional financial values are coexisting and reshaping consumer habits. Let's now zoom into specific alternative payment tools gaining some traction. And this is a very interesting trend to pay attention. One of them is the buy now, pay later, BNPL services that are currently used by 16% of respondents in Europe, which is a noticeable but still emerging trend in the payment landscape. This growing interest reflects consumer desire for flexibility and control, especially as BNPL, buy now, pay later models, often promoted as interest-free and accessible, gain ground on e-commerce and retail. In Europe, buy now, pay later sits alongside other alternative methods such as global money transfer, which are widely used, it sees 17%, and social media payments, which remains quite niche still with 7% adoption. Interestingly, usage patterns for BNPL appear fairly balanced across gender, pointing to broad-based appeal, even if uptake remains somehow modest for now. Let's now shift the focus to a digital wallet usage, which is a critical part of the digital financial ecosystem. While mobile wallets are widely accessible, actual adoption remains mixed. We see that 32% of the respondents in Europe say they are not interested in using their smartphone as wallet, and 10% report having set up a mobile wallet but don't actually use it yet. It is interesting to notice that users across working age groups, we consider 25-54 for this, tend to find mobile wallets less of a hassle, suggesting a quiet but steady shift towards digital payment comfort, even if adoption remains uneven here. At the same time, a significant share of Europeans still hesitates to embrace these tools, often due to concerns about privacy and familiarity, and perhaps even a lack of perceived need. It is a clear call for action to provide this. Simplify onboarding, showcase tangible benefits, and build confidence to turn passive interest into active use. Let's now step back and talk about cryptocurrency ownership in Europe. According to our study, 40% of respondents say they have owned or used crypto, suggesting a strong base for early adopters. Ownership is high among young users, especially aged 25 to 44, and it falls sharply in the 45 plus age group. That generational gap mirrors the adoption curves we've seen in other emerging tech categories. How familiar are Europeans with crypto? And this is an interesting question. So we have that 36% of Europeans say that they are familiar with cryptocurrency, while 39% that they are not familiar at all, and the remaining 25% fall somewhere in the middle of these two previous categories. And this familiarity rate is slightly behind other regions. And this is a very key and an important aspect because, for example, we know that familiarity in Africa, it's around 59%, in the Middle East, 53%, and in APAC, 47%. So there is clearly a lower familiarity in Europe, and this is perhaps an example of a more reserved stand towards digital assets, possibly influenced by stricter regulations, lower day-to-day utility, and cultural caution around emerging financial tools. Interest in crypto is relatively muted across Europe. So nearly half of these respondents, 45%, report having no interest in cryptocurrency at all, while a third of them express skepticism or concern about some risks. And notably, this cautious approach cuts across both gender equally. Only 29% of them say they are curious to learn more without currently owning any. And a small minority report past involvement or ownership, some sort of relation with cryptos. This pattern reflects hesitancy unique to the region, one that contrasts with more exploratory attitudes seen globally, which is mentioned a second ago, the shares and the attitudes from other continents, which are clearly much higher than Europe. And these findings suggest that in Europe, crypto remains on the fringe of mainstream financial behavior. Even among those who own cryptocurrency in Europe, the dominant motivation is investment. A striking 62% say that they hold crypto primarily to grow wealth for investment, suggesting that for most, crypto is viewed more like a digital gold than a usable currency. In contrast, a small portion report that using it for practical purposes. For instance, we see 10% for purchase, 12% for peer-to-peer transfer, and just 9% part of their job or their business. And these patterns hold across all age groups, indicating that even if awareness grows, real-world application of crypto in daily transactions remains still something rare. These insights highlight a key opportunity for crypto to go mainstream. Practical use cases must evolve alongside the investment interest. When it comes to storage, mobile wallets and centralized exchanges remain the dominant choices among European crypto users. For instance, we know that 35% of the respondents across Europe use mobile wallets and apps to store their crypto. Slightly more men, 37% in this case, than women, which amounts for 33%. Centralized exchanges follow closely at 32%, and then payment services with 21%, followed by software wallet, which amount for 18%. And lastly, an integrated financial apps, which count for the 17% that combine crypto with banking and investment services. So this indicates that most Europeans prefer simplicity and mobile-first convenience through familiarity and trust in exchanges still hold some strong influence. Now, going beyond storage preferences, platform choice also reflects consumer trust. In all countries surveyed, Binance is a clear leader, used by over half of the respondents. We see here 53.6%, and it is significantly outpaces competitors like Coinbase or Paribus, suggesting a clear preferences for platforms that offer wide access, familiarity, and perceived reliability. In Europe, Binance dominance is even stronger. Chosen by 62% of crypto users, it's far ahead from Coinbase, that amounts for 62%, and Paribus, which is only 8%. This reinforces European users' preferences for established trusted platforms. Importantly, this pattern of preference holds true across several markets in the region, highlighting Binance's strong regional footprint. Continuing with platform choices, there is also a clear favorite when it comes to coins. Bitcoin is the most popular coin on cryptocurrencies exchanges in Europe. The strong preference for Bitcoin reflects its established reputation, high liquidity, and a leading role in the digital asset space. This alignment between Binance dominance and Bitcoin popularity highlights a user base that prioritizes reliability and established reputation when selecting both platforms and coins. Still, not all users are jumping in, and understanding why is this takes us to the final part of our study. We found that there are some barriers to adoption, and the key question is here, so what's holding people back from this deeper adoption? Across all countries surveyed, barriers to cryptocurrency adoption reflect earlier hesitations with digital payments. Key concerns include knowledge gap. So we found that nearly a half of the respondents report a lack of understanding. Another point is security fears. We found that 42% cite concerns around safety. And also we found some trust issues because 1/3 of the respondents say that they don't trust these platforms. So beyond that, volatility, regulatory uncertainty, and limited everyday use also contribute to hesitation. While digital tools are gaining ground, these gaps in education and trust are still major hurdles. Interestingly, these barriers look slightly different when we break them down by gender. So if we look at women, we see that they report higher levels of concern across most categories, especially around understanding, security, and platform trust. On the other hand, if we look at what happens, how men react to this, They are slightly more focused on regulatory uncertainty and market volatility. So this shows that while both genders share some concerns, tailoring education and trust building efforts to different audiences might be a key to accelerating adoption. And looking specifically at Europe, we see similar patterns taking shape. Both men and women cite lack of understanding and security risk as their top barriers, with women expressing slightly greater hesitation across most factors. This underlines the need to build not just awareness, but also confidence through simplified experience, real world use cases, and a stronger platform accountability. So we're reaching the end of my presentation. And just before we close, here is a quick snapshot of how we run this study. The research was conducted in the first half of 2024 through online surveys using our proprietary panels and tech platform, and we ensured a demographic representation across gender, age, and region. For European focus, our sample included 5 key markets: Germany, France, Spain, Poland, and the UK. That gave us a strong, diverse base of 8,651 unweighted respondents, which was enough to make statistically relevant comparisons across all segments.
All right, thank you, Antonella, for the insightful presentations. It's now time to move on to the last part of the sections. For those who are new to us, TTM Research is a technology-led market research firm specializing in global online data collections, and we operate in over 130 markets worldwide with a strong presence across APAC regions, European regions, and America, delivering high-quality consumers insights to businesses across sectors. We bring extensive expertise in multi-country research, having successfully carrying out studies in diverse industries such as sports marketing, gambling and sports betting, pet care, and e-commerce. This latest study on payment behaviors and cryptocurrency adoptions in Europe is part of our ongoing commitment to understanding how consumers' finance is evolving in a rapidly digitalizing world. So if you are looking for dependable, high-quality insights across multiple markets, we'll be happy to connect and explore how TGM Research can support your data and research needs. So that wraps up our today's sections. Thank you for joining us and being part of the conversations. If you'd like to dive deeper into the findings, feel free to connect to Antonella. The full report is also available on our website, so please don't hesitate to reach out to us or visit our website to learn more. Thanks once again, and we'll look forward to staying connected. Thank you.